Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rex, and this is when a Bf-109 spared a stricken B-17 by the channel Yarnhub. Yeah, people have been telling me to react to Yarnhub, so there you go, the first video from this. Christmas 1943, a badly shot up B-17 struggled to stay in the air. It was the first mission for the 21-year-old pilot. Half his crew lay wounded. Then the dark shadow of the feared Bf-109 pulled alongside the bomber. Okay, so Bf-109 was, I guess a Nazi plane that was really powerful or something. And B-17 is a bomber, obviously. Worse at its control was a German fighter, Ace, looking for his next target. What happened next would later be called one of the most incredible acts of kindness between enemies. Please share or embed this story to help spread this amazing World War II story. Yeah, okay. So this is a World War II story about two fighter jets. It's gonna be fun. Remember people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more, which type of channels to react to more. Check out the reaction I did, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast for different playlists like history, old historical production, internet historian, real life lore. And yeah, let's watch this one.
It was December the 20th, 1943, and in the freezing air high above Germany, 2nd Lieutenant Charles Charlie Brown struggled to keep his mortally damaged American bomber on course. Brown had been wounded in the shoulder. His tail gunner, Sergeant Hugh Ecky Eckenrode, was dead, and several other members of the crew were wounded, some severely. Their aircraft, B-17 Ye Old Pub, had been hit twice by flak as it approached its target, the Focke-Wulf plant in the German city of Bremen, forcing the crew to shut down one of the engines and throttle back on another. This had left it lagging behind the main formation of aircraft from the 379th Bombardment Group, and groups of German fighters had closed in like sharks, sensing blood in the water. Up to 15 fighters had attacked the bomber, and the whole tail section was shot to pieces. The nose cone was missing. The electrical, hydraulic, and oxygen systems were damaged. The radio was out, and the entrails of the crippled bomber flapped in the slipstream through gaping rents in the fuselage. But B-17s are tough old birds, and this one somehow kept on flying despite the damage. Brown blacked out for a short time due to pain, loss of blood, and a lack of oxygen, and the bomber spiraled towards the ground. Brown came to and realized that the B-17 was only a few hundred feet above the ground. He somehow managed to get it back under control and turned west towards...
Alright, is this... this is pretty Hollywoody, right? Holy shit! I mean, the guy blacked out while flying and then suddenly, came out of it and saying, oh, holy shit, that's the ground, just few hundred feet away from me. Damn, that is something. And okay, how can this plane take that much damage? Won't the fuel leak out and that's it or something like that? Because I always had this, I always have this mentality. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on this, but planes are pretty damn fragile to weapon fire, right? If there are many holes in it, that's it, right? Planes usually goes down. Isn't that the case? How is this plane taking that much damage, missing a chunk of it behind and even on the top of it apparently, and still flying? How is that possible? Because in today's modern planes, if electronics and everything fails, there is only one way to go. It's down, right? So there is no much technology and it's all mechanical. Somehow the guy is still flying. I don't know.
England in safety, 250 miles away. Brown wasn't able to coax the B-17 much above 1,000 feet, and he was vaguely aware that he had passed close to the perimeter of a German airfield. Soon after, he realized that a German Messerschmitt Bf-109 was flying in close formation beside him. It was so close that Brown could see the German pilot as he gestured towards the ground, telling Brown to set the bomber down. Most of the B-17's gunners were wounded. Only a few guns were still working and none were able to shoot at the enemy fighter alongside. Brown could only look on at the German pilot and shake his head. For a short time, the Messerschmitt flew beside the bomber. Then it slid away above and behind. Brown waited for the gunfire that must mean the end of Ye Old Pub. But nothing happened. He realized to his astonishment that the German fighter was flying escort on the B-17. As they crossed the coastline and flew out over the North Sea, the fighter remained on station. Only when they were well out from the German coast did the fighter slide in again, close to the bomber. Brown looked across, and the German pilot looked back at him, raised a gloved hand in salute, and then swung his aircraft away back towards the east. Brown managed to put Ye Olde Pub on the ground, not at their home base in Cambridgeshire, but at an airbase of the 448th Bomb Group near Norfolk in East Anglia. He and all his crew, other than the tail gunner, survived. At debriefing...
Okay, what? Okay, first of all, this feels really Hollywoody. I don't know. First of all, the Nazi plane basically came close to him and actually signaled him, like, put down at that height, at that distances. That's astonishing. That feels really, like I said, Hollywoody or cartoonish. But, obviously this might have happened since this is a history channel. So, there must be a good record of this. But I don't know, man. Why didn't the Nazi plane shot the bomber down, right? I mean, they are already at war. The bomber was there to attack Nazi planes and, I guess, ground. It's a bomber. So why did they let the bomber go? Why didn't he just shoot it down? Was that his order to let the bomber go? Or did he take initiative there? Because the guy refused to put it down. So maybe it's like, okay, the guy is way too brave. There's no point of killing him or something. So did B-109 plane pilot took initiative by his own, like, okay, I'm gonna let him go or something? Damn, this is some story.
Brown told his story about the German fighter which escorted him. It was decided that this should be kept secret. The notion of an honorable German pilot choosing not to shoot down a damaged American bomber just didn't fit with the message that the US Air Force wanted to give out. Charlie Brown survived the war.
What? Honorable Nazis? Preposterous.
Went home to go to college and then rejoined the Air Force in 1949. He served until 1965, when he retired as a colonel. It wasn't until much later, in 1986, at a meeting of retired combat pilots called Gathering of the Eagles, that he first spoke about what had happened. The response was strong, though some questioned whether the whole incident really happened. Even Brown began to wonder. His memories of that day in 1943 were hazy due to his injuries, exhaustion, and the stress of combat. Could he be remembering it all wrong? Brown decided that he was...
That is a possibility, not just because of the conditions. Even people who are not engaged in war, even one of you who are, listening to this, I'm pretty sure there are certain memories that you're damn sure is true. When you revisit it, like check it again, it will be completely different thing than you remember, right? But you're so sure that that's true. Time does that to your memory, right? It's surreal to think about it. You're like, oh, come on, what I know. There's no way in hell that could be wrong. But no, if something has enough time in it, right? And you're so sure of that memory, but when you revisit it, you realize, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't the case. I mean, that, I recently, came to realization with that. Like, one of the things I was damn sure of, it's something that I watched some kind of, video or movie. I don't remember exactly, but it was something like that. And when I revisited that, I realized, like, what the fuck, this is completely different. And then suddenly, memory triggered, like, oh, wait a minute, it was this. So what I remember was wrong. It happens. And especially the stressful conditions like this, I mean, your mind tries to forget all this war thing, right? Only core things your mind remembers. So it wouldn't be so far-fetched to think that he got confused with some details there.
Going to find the German pilot involved, if only to prove that he hadn't imagined the whole thing. It took 4 years, but in 1990, Brown finally received a letter from a man named Stigler, who was living in Canada. Stigler explained that he had been the pilot of the German fighter who had escorted Ye Olde Pub. On December the 20th, 1943, Franz Stigler had been a 27-kill veteran pilot. He had flown against American bombers in his Messerschmitt Bf-109 G6 that morning, and he was refueling on the ground when Ye Olde Pub passed close by. He took off intending to shoot down the American bomber. However, as he closed with the limping aircraft, he could see just how badly it had been hit. He would later say that he had never seen a more severely damaged aircraft still flying. Stigler's commander had told his pilots never to fire at an enemy who was descending on a parachute. While the crew of Ye Olde Pub hadn't bailed out, they were clearly no longer capable of fighting, and Stigler decided that he could not bring himself to attack. Instead, he flew alongside and gestured to Brown to land. He just simply couldn't imagine that the crippled aircraft could possibly make it back to England. When Brown refused, Stigler made an extraordinary decision. Instead of shooting it down, he flew close formation with the B-17, hoping that this would deter flak batteries on the coast from firing at it. He flew with the bomber well out over the North Sea until it was clear of German airspace, and then left it to continue towards England. Stigler never told anyone about what had happened. Sparing an American bomber would likely have led to punishment and perhaps even execution, but he often wondered if it had made it back to base.
Okay, didn't the guns at the ground saw them doing that? Didn't they see like, okay, maybe, okay, this is just animations. Obviously, the coast is way too bigger, so maybe they went way too far ahead of the vision of the guns, and then the plane came back. So probably the people of the guns thought that he probably shot it down or something. So in that says it makes sense. But damn, this is something, right? He's one of the superior or something told him that never shoot at an enemy who's on the parachute, which not all Nazis took that advice, obviously. But he took it apparently. So for him, there was no difference between that and the plane, because the plane was in bad condition anyway. It's like all the soldiers in the plane might as well jump with parachute. That was the condition. So he just thought that this is a similar condition, so why shoot at it or something like that.
Stigler continued flying fighters throughout the war. In 1953, he emigrated from Germany to Canada, where he started a successful business. When he heard from Charlie Brown in 1990, Stigler confirmed every aspect of his story. Franz Stigler and Charlie Brown were astonished to discover that they had been living less than 200 miles apart for much of the time since the war. Stigler had settled in Vancouver, British Columbia, while Brown was in Seattle, Washington. In the latter years, the two men remained close friends, often visiting and talking to other flyers about their shared experiences.
Oh, that was fucking awesome. That story was just perfection, right? A Nazi fighter, sticking to his morals and not shooting down a bomber. A bomber basically refusing to give up. If we die, we die. And that's a Nazi plane basically, leads him towards the, British coast and just goes away. And later on, they find each other and then realize they were just living way too close, because 200 miles is not that much, right? Especially at the, in USA and Canada. Because he's just living in Seattle, right? He's in Washington State, I guess, and he was living in Canada. It was just 200 miles. It's not much. That's some story, man. Decades after that incident, realizing that they were living that close. Damn. Right, well, that was when a Bf-109 spared a stricken B-17. Bf-109, Messerschmitt Bf-109. Was that really, feared and powerful plane of the World War II? I have no knowledge of planes about World War II when it comes. I really need to watch some videos on that. I don't know about tanks, but not planes. So yeah. Alright people, if you like my Rickson, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Rickson, there's a link in the description. Check out the Khas playlist, check out the link cards, and yeah, I'll see you next time.